Hi, my name is Tracy. I help people with narcissistic abuse and chronic health issues. And this video, we're going to talk about trauma bonds and trauma bonding. So, trauma bonds are basically a kind of attachment. As humans, we have attachments to everyone and everything, but trauma bonds are or bred or created from cycles of abuse. And your family of origin would have created that trauma bond. And there are levels or severity of or spectrum of trauma bonds. It can be very severe or it can be mild. And it's kind of like addictions. Addictions can be very mild or it can be severe. And the process of letting go of grieving a trauma bond is much different than grieving a healthy attachment. Grieving a trauma bond, leaving a narcissistic abusive relationship or family member comes with so much emotion and so much pain that's why it's really hard to leave, because it takes a level of suffering and pain to actually get released from the trauma bond that people don't know how to do that. And people generally would rather endure the level of pain that they're in because they're used to it. But this kind of pain of releasing a trauma bond, of breaking up with a partner or a family member who is narcissistically abusive, that's a new kind of pain. And we are afraid of something new. We are afraid of something different. And it hurts. So basically, the experiences of letting go of a trauma bond is that it comes with so much anxiety and so much depression. Because there's these addiction energies and these insecure attachments that are embedded into this trauma bond. So it's common that when we let go of a trauma bond, we feel anxious and depressed. We feel very anxious at first, and then we feel depressed. And then sometimes there's this pain and this feeling of death. I don't even know what the point of life is anymore, because we have so much identification to that person who has created trauma for us. Because when that person tells you who you are, gaslights you, shames you, and then basically tries to control you and manipulate you, it hurts to endure that. But there's this bandage when they're there. And then when they're gone, when you release that, you're just left with you, all the shame that they left you, all that gaslit energy, all that who am I, all that they were my whole life because I put them on a pedestal. I've spent so much of my life stressing and in pain about them that without them, where do I put this stress and pain? Where do I project this stress and pain now? You have no one to blame anymore because they're gone. They're not there right next to you, because it's easy to just resent the person next to you and to kind of live in this or endure this kind of suffering, but be identified with that person. Pain identified with another person feels so different than pain alone. Pain alone and being able to cope with that pain alone is what needs to be done. And it will feel like death. It will hurt like hell. There will be anxiety. There'll be depression. There'll be what's the point of life? All those feelings. But once you sift through the grief, the death feelings, the anxiety, the shame, and there's no point. I don't know how to relate. I don't know if anything meant anything anymore. And then you question the whole existence of your relationships and love in general, and the paradigm of you as a loving social creature. You just question everything. So sometimes letting go of a trauma bond is so much harder than enduring a toxic relationship, which is why we kind of stay in these like toxic family cycles or just these long broken marriages. And then there's this chronic illness. We've endured a level of pain and suffering in the relationship without changing at all. And not to say that you have to leave the person or leave the family, but there needs to be actually an emotional like detachment. Like there needs to be grief in an emotional way and boundaries, however it feels right for you. Those things need to happen whether you physically leave the relationship or not, so that you can grow and show up and navigate differently. So I thought I'd speak to trauma bonding and trauma bonds and kind of acknowledge the fact that leaving trauma bonds, breaking trauma bonds, is really hard. And I don't blame people for staying in their relationships or enduring, toxicity in their families and relationships, because it is another level of pain to let go of them. So whether you choose to stay or to leave, it's always just up to where you're at. But what I can say is that when you continue to heal while you're in the relationship, you're going to resolve the shame within you and the pain within you that will ultimately make you decide one way or another. But I know one thing is that when you keep healing shame and you keep healing pain, you don't want it so much on the outside of you anymore. If that pain within is healed inside, when you experience it externally in your relationship, it's no longer going to resonate with you. And you're like, this doesn't feel right. I don't want to take this anymore. Like, I can't take this anymore. And that's actually a part of you that's getting healthy. I would understand. So just a little bit into this journey of trauma bonding and whether you stay or whether you leave, because that's a big one. There's so many factors to consider. We didn't talk about the family structure, the finances involved, the kids involved. There's so many things. So it's not an easy choice. My heart goes out there to those who are suffering and kind of in this space of trauma bonding and navigating through that. Anyways, thank you so much for tuning into this video, and I will connect with you in the next one.